What up? I'm going long today. You know why? Because I am amped up. Maddie, God, it's been too long. Thank you. Thank you for showing your beautiful face on the stream. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing amazing. I love seeing your face, and I love seeing this other face here.
And Alan,
What's going on, fellas?
To the podcast, brother. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good. Excited to be here, guys.
So, bunch of things we need to cover before we get into the regular format. First, little did you all know, we're all buddies. We all grew up together. We've known each other from a very, very young age. Maddie and I go way, way back, but so does Alan. So this is going to be really cool to catch up because we're going to reminisce a little bit about childhood, but in addition to talk about, I'm really excited about this conversation because it's always been Web3. I am interested to see what principles come through this conversation, Alan, because I know there's going to be a lot of similar stuff from Web3, and I think it's going to be super insightful. It's going to be great for my hardcore Web3 audience. It's going to make it a great podcast. But before we get there, it's going to do a little catching up. And the first person I have to catch up with is you, Maddie. Please tell the midlife crisis Mikey G fam what you have been up to, because I still get people that say, where the hell is Maddie? And I say, listen, we have a master plan. So talk to me, Goose.
So part of that master plan is not me ejecting out of my F-14 Combat and getting my neck snapped in the.
Like you've always been my Goose, brother.
Yeah, but outside of that, man, been focusing on real estate, and I'm excited because this is kind of a weird merge, right? Because we had our podcast Web3, doing things with NFTs, and the guy that we're talking to today is who pulled me over into real estate and made me realize what an opportunity was there. And Mikey, we've been talking about it for a long time. Okay, Web3 is a great way to create some wealth, but long-term wealth, holding wealth, there's got to be other options. You got to diversify. We talked about some of those options, and I started talking to you about what got me excited about real estate. So I've been going down that road, and this guy's been a big part of helping me get there. And he even planted the seed of what I'm doing now, which is specifically focusing on the multifamily investment side. For those who don't know, that's things like apartments, condos, things like that, but specifically apartments, and the syndication model of how you can invest in that and take money you earned and use it for incredible tax benefits, making money, and also get residual income. It's a very, very, it's a well-known way to keep your wealth there. Many of the wealthiest people, that's what they do. But I'd like to get to have that problem myself because I also need those benefits. And I know that that's something we've been chatting about, man. So my side of this has been really learning that road, blazing that path. And, we talk, of course, outside of the podcast all the time, Mikey. And
yeah,
I'm excited to see what we can do as a team, building that side of the midlife crisis business. So that's what I've been doing, man. It's been amazing working on that asset management side and crushing it.
Yeah, dude. And thanks for the update. The other reason I'm really excited about this is I deal with a lot of Web3 people that spend tens of thousands of dollars on some shit coin that goes to zero 24/7. And it just amazes me the amount of internet funny money that people have in this space that, like, why would you not just go buy a house, people? It's a wild ecosystem. So people are obviously very financially driven in this space, and it makes sense to have more practical conversations. So I think, like you said, there's a huge crossover between Web3 and what we're going to be talking about here. So I'm super pumped about that. As far as the Mikey G on the Web3 side, amazing conversations in the background with massive brands in this space. Bubble and I have another co-founder that we've started kind of a strategy company together in the Web3 space. We're winding down one partnership with Project 89. Can't wait to get a little testimonial with them. All of the other big projects I can't reveal quite yet because we haven't signed anything, but just know working hard in the background. Third thing, my Twitter account got hacked. I'm going to continue to say this on every single episode. I need your help. If somebody listens to this, please DM the Midlife Crisis account because I need Mikey G back. That is, dude, Maddie, we've been building this stuff for 5 years at this point, bro. It was a pretty big dagger to lose all of that. You know, I've worked my ass off building that, but it is what it is.
Man, I remember you calling me and saying, bro, I got 50 followers. And then I remember you calling me again, bro, I got 65 followers. I got 2 new followers today. Like from that level, 0, grinding it out. And then I remember when you hit 500 and 1,000 and 5,000 and 10,000. And so I feel you, man. You, a lot of people buying these things, man. You did it the real way. And I respect that. And so I really hope somebody from Twitter finds out that we need to get your account back.
Yeah, come on, you sons of bitches. Help me out. And this is, I forgot to tell you, Alan, this is like an R-rated podcast. So I tend to curse every now and then. It's not like, I'm not like dirty sailor mouth the whole time, but I'm free flowing. So sometimes it comes out.
It's not off the table. All right, I'm good with that.
It's not off the table, brother. I think the only thing that's off the table is like big old blunts on screen because I think that's not even I live in California. People can do that wherever they want. It's more the YouTube and the Twitter and the Twitches. I don't think they get pretty excited about that.
If Matt gives us some manly cleavage, is that all right?
Yeah. I don't think we can all start getting naked either, but hey, I don't know. We could test the limits.
What?
We could test the limits. So Mr. Cat's on tomorrow. K's on Friday. And Wednesday, I'm forgetting. Don't hate me, whoever's coming on Wednesday. But we got a jam-packed week. It's going to... OKD. That's going to be a fantastic conversation, too. We've got true 3D artists. We've got people building IPs. We've got people building other really interesting new technology in the space that most people haven't seen before. So it's going to be amazing conversations. With all of that being said, we're now to the meat, the man, the myth, the legend, Alan, our beloved guest that is here on this show. Before we get into the famous question, the midlife crisis famous question, I'd like to do a little formal introduction here. So Alan's been sales for 15 years, over 15 years, or 15 years, Alan, over 15 years?
At least 15, longer.
At least 15 years. Which is a healthy amount of time to be doing something. Obviously, he's been in real estate for about 8 years, and has run one of the largest real estate companies in Florida. But this is the most exciting part. This dude that you're looking at got struck by lightning and still lives today. His heart is beating. He did not die. And I cannot wait to talk about that. How did I do in the intro, Alan? Anything you want to add? Did I do you justice, brother?
Man, that was great. That was great.
Fantastic. We'll get to all of the other stuff in the future here. So with that being said, we are here. The best part of the podcast, I always like to say this, Alan, man. When I sit in this chair, I'm like, we talk about the zone a lot, right? Especially from like an athletic perspective, where you can be in the zone in anything. Dude, when I sit in this chair, I am in my zone. And I deeply meant that in the beginning. Like, I am just fascinated by human beings and stories. And I know a lot of yours, but I'm going to learn a ton of new stuff today. And I just cannot wait for that. So we're going to get there by doing this. A world famous midlife crisis question. Alan, how did you get to the seat you're sitting in today? Please give me episode 1, 2, and 3. Heads up to the audience. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. We're probably going to spend more like 75% on the professional episode 2 and then the real estate career 1, because episode 1, we're all friends. We know a little bit about that. But we have a lot more content to cover in the real estate side of things. So we're going to do about 10 minutes on episode 1, which is, Alan, and when you think about episode 1, you know, vivid memories, or more even this, just mantras that you were taught to live by that really you kind of hold near and dear to the heart today that help kind of drive you in the real estate world or drove you throughout your life as you were growing up? Episode 2 is schooling. We could touch on that a little bit. I'm more interested in this part, mentorship, leadership, jobs that you had, skill sets gained, and that kind of click aha moment that like, oh, everything that I've learned has prepped me for episode 3, which is real estate. And we're going to do a really deep dive into real estate. I think there's a lot of parallels between real estate and Web3, like we said earlier. So let's have at it, brother. Hit me with episode 1. I know it's a huge question. Whatever first comes to mind, and we'll go from there, brother.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you talk about the seat that I'm sitting in today. And it's a fun place to be because it's got a good view. I'm more excited about where it's all going, but I guess, the fun part is that for everyone out there, most people want to live in a house. Most people want to own a house. Most people want to do investments. So there's a lot of things that we can talk about that I think people will broadly be interested in.
Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of cool stuff to chat about. But when I think about like the things that brought me here, I think a lot of people, when you look back, it seems like the puzzle pieces all fit perfectly, even though at the time it just seemed like a jumbled mess, and it's like there is a bigger picture. And the longer I live, the more like trust and faith I have in that process of this jumbled mess that I'm currently in the middle of will eventually be arranged into a beautiful picture that will be better than I expected it to be,
No, absolutely.
So,
keep on going.
I was gonna say, like, going all the way back, I my earliest mantra is like, my parents were very, I'll just say, everyday people. My mom and my dad really taught me of all of the success principles, which I now know, that most of them were learned after growing up, right? But my mom and my dad taught me do the right things the right way for the right reasons. And it was just a very honest mentality. That's just how they are. But that also, I think, lays the foundation for doing quality work over a long period of time, treating people right. And those very fundamental principles, you can lay a broad foundation that you can build a lot on top of, but without any specific direction to that, I went through most of my life, having fun, but feeling pretty directionless, right?
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't ambitious. It's just that I didn't know what the heck was ahead of me, Right. The only example I had was my dad, and he had what I thought was a boring job,
What did he do again? I don't remember.
He was an engineer, worked.
Right. He was an engineer, but I'm already going to cut in, man. I'm telling you, those 3 sentences, we could talk for 45 hours. And so you randomly said the 2 biggest principles that come out from all of these founders. I mean, I just had a guy on last week that sold his company to Microsoft for $100 million, maybe $200 million. I don't know. This guy's been in Silicon Valley for like 25 years. He had the whole conversation about doing things over a long period of time, but the foundation of that was doing the right things the right way. I love how you said that and how your parents said that to you. My question to you is, give me these examples. Like, I think people say always all the time, do the right thing. But I'm always interested in tangible examples or things that come up in your memory when you're thinking about doing the right things. Maybe even doing the right things when it was hard to do, right? I'm always fascinated by this insight because your perception of that is different from mine, which is different from Maddie's. And I always say this in every episode too, is the way that you speak about these principles and your journey, it's going to have a profound impact on somebody that watches this. And that is the real magic we do. So peel back that just idea and mantra to me a little bit. What does it mean to you to do the right thing in the right way? And give us some examples.
The right thing, right? Right can be totally contextual.
Right.
So It could be the most profitable thing, could be the most, efficient thing or whatever. In this sense, I mean it as kind of like just the way the situation calls for it to be done,
Right.
And my dad was an example of a guy that, never skipped steps. He wasn't fancy, he wasn't flashy, but he did it right because that was the right way to do it. And he saw it really as like, service to God, essentially, right? Like this is in the biblical principle of like, do it as if you were doing it for God, and he lived his life that way as well as he could,
No, I love that. And I think that context is super helpful because whether it's religion or something else that drives you, just being a good person and making the right decision is just such a critical thing that this world needs to hear right now. So I appreciate you for sharing that. Keep on going, man.
So I didn't have a specific way to apply that. It was, I wasn't very excited about anything until probably, and my plan was just, putting one foot in front of the other and having as much fun as I could along the way. But around 18 years old, I met some really successful entrepreneurs who for the first time showed me a vision of life that I was excited about. It was the first time I saw something that was, going to really have what I thought was a payoff worth paying a high price for. It was the first time I felt like instead of, just stepping along, it was like I was being pulled forward in a direction, and the pull kind of like pulled the best out of me and taught me to do a lot of things that I didn't know were necessary, got me into the self-development and the self-help and the principles of success with a specific application in mind. And those things, I was 18, 19, 20, all the way through probably 28, really in that culture of personal development, which was a really formative, part of my psyche, I think. And just going through that process, it helped me realize that there was so much more that I was capable of than I was currently on course for, and that there were continual levels to that, right? And as soon as I could break through to one level, in whether that was, reaching for a goal or working hard or, or working together with people, there were so many little levels and they started to stack on top of each other, that there's lessons to be learned regardless of the specific application of it. And then at a later time in my life, I was ready to apply that to what were probably objectively much better opportunities.
Right. Good.
Amazing
insight already.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So you're learning this around 18 years old. You go off to college, and you were part of, correct me if I'm wrong, basically kind of like a pilot program where you could create your own degree. And of course, obviously all this had to go through the school and advisors and whatnot. And the degree you created, just for the audience, what was the degree you created? What was it? What was the title?
The degree, the title, the thing that's on the diploma is leadership and team development, right?
Okay, so leadership and team development. So you got involved, you saw some entrepreneurs that were very successful. Why did you choose leadership and team development and not something like marketing or traditional entrepreneurship? Why not the more classic things? What was it that led you to specifically leadership and team development?
There's lots of visions of success, and it's a highly personal thing, and you could make a case along a lot of dimensions. The thing that always got me most excited was a combination of results, like financial success and results, as well as, removing obligations, leaving me free to operate, ideally giving me a nice cushion of FU money to operate as independently and ethically as I wanted to in the world. But then also turning around and, not just saying, hey, my life's great, suck it, my life's awesome, go figure it out. Now being able to like pass that along and really, having a heart for people, and, to whom much has been given, much is expected, and trying to pay it forward. There was a purpose that went along with that, that was more inspiring than just my own success. And so, you know, whether that was helping other people follow along the road, it gave more meaning to the work that I was going through, more meaning to the problems that I was running into, the struggles that when I would eventually become victorious in those struggles, I could then help people that were struggling with those things. And now as a parent, you know, now there's a whole nother dimension to it where I'm not just, you know, helping other like-minded people. I can see the application of this with my kids. And so, you know, there's a lot more, the purpose keeps you going when you're in the dry seasons of business. And so it's, it kind of is like a beautiful circle thing, you know?
Love it.
Dude, I love the insight. But here's my question about this, though. Bro, most 18-year-olds are not thinking about this. What do you think that was? Did you always have that just like burning desire to do things different? What was the drive? Because even like you said, you then went through the next 10 years of your life leveling up and learning. But at the base of your decision, like, bro, when I was 18, Mikey G was slamming beers and trying to hang out and do anything but school and figure out what I was going to do for the next 10 years to 20 years of my life. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, to be totally honest, it was more of an escape from a dreary future that I kind of was the only future I really had imagined up to that point. And when I finally saw that, like, you know, that you could actually become financially free, like there were humans that owned boats, you know, and, you know, there were people that like didn't wake up and go into an office and then come home when it was dark, which is, I thought that's what adults did. And when I realized that there was another option, I was just like, you know, full speed ahead. It was just a better option. Yeah. And then I realized how many ways there are to do it and how many levels there are to it. And I think one of the dilemmas that we all have at this moment in time, where we have access to super intelligence and we're all hyper connected and there's all this interconnection of people, is we're choking on opportunities. There's so many things around, you don't know what to do first, you know? And so people sometimes are suffocated by their own ambition because they don't take the time, you know, they're chasing their tail in many ways. Not to get on a tangent with that, but
no, dude, tangent's what we love here. But I love that insight as well too, is because that was like the beginning of, which we can move on to now, is this next journey of about the 10 years of like this personal development, and as you said, leveling up. So let's start going through this journey.
Yeah.
And when we get through this journey, though, again, really interested in wins, but also more importantly, failures, and like these aha moments of like, oh, I read this book and I thought for sure this was the answer, and then it wasn't. Like, talk to me about those moments.
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, there's a lot of just stumbling forward, and as you know, in that early part of your career, there's so much to learn. And if you are surrounded by people that are also in growth mode, it kind of keeps you from tripping over a lot of the stumbling blocks that most people are going to trip over. So I got to, you know, skip, I think, a lot of the traps that end up catching people, just bad habits, bad relationships, things like that. I was fortunate to be surrounded by people that were really ambitious and had access to mentors financially and in the business world that, you know, gave me something to look up to, something to inspire to, and were giving me direction. You know, and that was really a big thing. However,
how was that? Sorry about that. Did you guys hear that?
There was like a squeak.
Okay, sorry. Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. I thought there was like a fire alarm or something. Dude, take it back.
I thought you were burping or something.
Take it back like three or four sentences. I think there was one of those like Amber Alerts on my phone or something. That was scary as crap.
Okay.
Take it back 3 or 4 sentences. I'm so sorry, bro, but I jumped out of my pants.
Those things always happen at the worst times, like if you're holding a sleeping baby, right? That's
yeah, exactly. All right, go ahead. Sorry, reset. Let's reset the stage here.
So it was interesting. I had the advantage of mentors that were helping me, like, a good book list will absolutely change your life, and just keeping you on the right principles, things like as simple as, beginning with the end in mind, figuring out the results that you really want to drive towards and then working your way back towards it is so fundamental and foundational. But very few people do that with their career. Very few people really take the time to figure out where they want to be, set steps to get there, and then keep trying, working through the failures and keep correcting course, So that was absolutely amazing. And then the flip side to it, talking about, failures and things that can trip you up, the people that I considered mentors, while they had a lot of things to look up to, I probably put too much confidence in them and kind of made them into heroes that they really shouldn't have been, right? And so when that business context, I got a little bit more experience, and I realized this whole business model that I'm in right now, this is not actually anywhere near the best opportunity in front of me.
Right.
And those relationships started to degrade. It was kind of like, throwing the baby out with the bathwater in many ways,
right.
So it hurt to see those relationships now tarnished by an actual bad experience and a lot of the positive principles that went along with it.
Yeah, and talk to me from a high level there, though, because I think a lot of people suffer from this, and it's in many different businesses, right? You really idolize some people, then you're like, and by the way, Web3 is a great example of this. I actually made this tweet probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. There's so many people in this space that I think people see them on Twitter and they're like, dude, I wish I could be that person. And, meanwhile, there's Mikey G with, the piddly 12,000 followers that has created a business that is actually generating income now. And I have a skosh of what people think it takes to, like, quote unquote, succeed. That's my example of it. Tell me your example and your experience of where you think it went wrong for the people that you were trying to follow. For example, one of the things that constantly comes up on this podcast is money is the end goal. And it has to be more than that, right? So, like, what are these things that you took insights from saying, hey, I'm going to do it differently next time. I'm going to maybe find somebody different the next time I go. Love to hear your insights on that.
Well, there's a whole list of, they're either, I can't remember if it's logical fallacies or like behavioral, like blind spots, right? And it's like, these are just things that humans don't have right in their psychology, and you just have to make your peace with it.
Right.
And one of them is that everybody is subject to this thing called motivated reasoning, right? And
don't even know what that is. Talk to me about this.
So motivated reasoning means if I have a good reason for something to be true, I will try to make it true. Right?
Gotcha.
If it's to my advantage to think that something is the right course of behavior, I will find a way to make it right in my mind. Right? So, like all of our, corrupt politicians, probably if you were their spouse listening to them talk about the ways that they were specifically corrupted, they probably have a cover story that makes them out to be either a victim or trying to do the right thing or whatever, and they were, corrupted by an opportunity, And so not to hold that against people, not to make, but just to understand that everybody's got something that they're working on, right? And that's their thing. And to realize that, like, many times those interests are perfectly aligned, and other times those interests are aligned for a period of time or whatever. And to realize that people got to do their own thing, and you've got to do your own thing too. and to give people the freedom to do that, and give yourself the freedom to do that. And so, you know, I'm sure probably everybody has their own version of this story where they had to learn that lesson and realize, okay, you have to understand where people are coming from, but also, you know, make your own decisions about where you need to go.
Right. No, I love that. And that is something that we talk about a lot. And Maddie and I talk about this a lot, but there's another way of talking about this concept of a good byproduct of it is self-awareness, right? Like you can't get caught up and manifested in like X is doing this, I want to be him. If I do X, Y, and Z, I will be them. It really all starts with you. Through these experiences, is that some of the stuff that starts percolating up? Like what I'm interested in here is fascinating, again, insight. How did these learning lessons start shifting that mindset a little bit?
Yeah. So, you know, using other people as a source of inspiration rather than necessarily as a playbook, you know, or a hero, you know what I mean? Realizing that, like, you know, everybody, like, just like you talked about earlier with your example in Web3, is that, like, you know, what you see is a picture perfect version that's usually presented and curated and crafted and on social media. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to understand that that person, you know, puts their pants on one leg at a time and does everything else that every human does, and probably sucks at a lot of things and probably makes a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And so just because there are a lot of things to emulate, right, and there is a great example there, it's not the only example. And you have to, you have to come back to your own sense of who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? At the end of the day, what's the story that I want to tell my kids that I was doing, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I love the insight of a source of inspiration. And I'm glad that you bring up social. Like, this is why I love what we do here, man. We're here to talk about real estate, but like, we've been talking for a half hour already, and you have dropped so many bombs. And this one in particular, I think, is something that is just not said enough, which is this: use these ideas as an inspiration, but to the end of the day, what we're talking about, it is all about self-awareness. It's about you intelligently interpreting these things and using them to your advantage to create your best outcome and your best self, right? Beautiful, beautiful conversation, man. I want to...
There are some levels, I think, that are really key, because I think a lot of people have to learn this lesson. And some people, sadly, can be so almost corrupted by how this can go poorly. They never let themselves get to the next level, because level one is realizing you need a mentor, right? That's a big deal, right? Hey, I can't do it on my own. I need somebody to coach me. Level two is realizing you need the right mentor.
Yes.
Right. Level three is realizing I need the right mentor for the right time in my life. Right. A lot of people never get there or let it go. They hold on to somebody who was right maybe 10 years ago, but not right now. And the level that I think comes just with time, and maybe having gone through it and learned this lesson the hard way, Alan, I know you know the same, is that right mentor in the right time is also willing to pass you on to the next mentor you need, and they'll do it for you. They're not holding on to you. Yeah. And that's a big switch, because I'll tell you what happens in Web3, and my background in martial arts, you see it all the time with these little Napoleons with their black belt studios. You know, you see this in a lot of arenas where it's like they may have started the right way, but then all of a sudden they have a following. You see this on X. You see this in Web3. All of a sudden they got this project. It gets to their head, and they're terrified to let it go, because they feel like it's going to mean something. It's going to diminish them, and they don't realize it's precisely the ability to take a person. You know, Alan, you talk about fatherhood. You know what I mean? It's like, if you don't want the people under you to outgrow you, what are you doing this for? You know what I mean? And that's a massive step, I think, mentally. And so I think it's an interesting thing for people to hear. It's like you just got to make sure you're in that right phase and that the mentor you have is the right one for that time.
Dude,
so yeah,
amazing follow-up to like really nail it home. And I think absolutely it happens all of the time. And again, to be able to let go of you being a mentor yourself and helping people out is so huge. What I'm interested in this, Alan, we'll do a little bit more, and then let's get into the meat of the real estate. I'm really excited to talk about that because it's another thing that fascinates me. I know you did sales for a really long time. Awesome talk about mentorship, self-realization. One, give me top one, I think, sales skill that is really reflected and helped translate into the real estate world, and we'll kind of transition into real estate after that.
Yeah, this is probably, sales 201.
Yeah.
Not 101, not 301 or 401, but, understanding that sales is a collaborative dynamic, right? It's really not me trying to make my will over you, right? I'm not trying to persuade you to the point where you no longer win, right? Like
Right.
if it's not a real win-win, it's better to let it go a lot of times, and so, understanding that it's better to ask the right questions than it is to have the right, bullet points, understanding that it's better to let someone make their own decisions than it is to force a decision down their throat. Like, especially in something like real estate where these things play out over a long time, when we go under contract on a house, you got 30 days before you're going to get the keys to that house typically. And if you get cold feet, it's a problem, So like, you need to have your own reasons identified. And the real skill set is to help you crystallize your own thinking and make your own priorities, and then bring the right set of expertise to back you up and support you.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative process. So, and that goes for everything. That's what you do here with these interviews, is like helping people gain insights that are going to help them move to the next level.
Yeah, man. I love that insight. And Maddie, I'm going to throw it over to you too, because like, I know you're new to the real estate world in the sense of what Alan has done, but bro, we want to talk about a man that's done sales for a while. Maddie Mintz has been doing that for a while as well. Tell me something that you think has been benefited you in the real estate world as well.
Well, in the real estate world, I don't think you have to have a category. I think what Alan said is true. I mean, sales is sales, whether you're selling, whether you're selling a pen, right? Sell me this pen, or whether you're selling a house. And I think that one of the funny things is I'm on a podcast right now with two of the best relationship builders that I know in my life. And it's just funny because you guys are the two most likable. Everyone I know has only good things to say about the two of you. You make friends easily. You both go into a room and within seconds, people just like you. And I will say that ability is magical. It can be intimidating for people like me, who's analytical with everything, because I think I need to be that charismatic. But what Alan said is the truth. Just make a friend. And if that person is your friend, you're looking out for their interests, even if the answer is no. I think in sales, we get so wrapped up with what if they say no, and you stop thinking about what happens if I have to say no. And if you can do that, and I think the way you do that is remembering exactly what Alan said, which is just, wait a second, we're in this together. I want to be your friend at the end of this. I may not get the sale today, but I can get the sale later. I may not get the sale, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And if you approach it that way, it takes the pressure off. So many people think you have to have that boiler room, hard pressure, Wolf of Wall Street sales technique.
Right.
And I think you just take the time to build a relationship. Look what you've done, Mikey. I mean, you have built your career just being friendly, and people have amazing things to say about you and your credentials and what that's done for your career. I think anybody could take that advice and run with it.
Yeah, dude. Well, thank you for the kind words. Alan and I were smiling the whole time. But I love, like, it almost gave me chills because you guys have been like in that prototypical sales job a lot more. I've never been really in like a quote unquote sales job. Obviously, sales is part of like if you're climbing up the corporate ladder, like I did at a big company like Geico. But I say this, and what you both just said, it so resonates with me. True. I tell my other partner, Bubble, all the time. I think I've built one of the greatest sales machines in Web3 because I have a process, and I need to add this to my website, but it's a 3-phase process, right? First phase is we go on an intro call with the founder, and that's just me. This is just me understanding, is this person going to be a good fit? And I have said no to many people because this is a different type of format. This is a deeper dive. They need to be confident with themselves, confident in front of the camera. That's just not everybody, and that's totally fine. It's okay. Then I bring them through this kind of intimate experience that we're having now, and then I set up a follow-up strategy call. No sales whatsoever. By that time that I have this follow-up call, I'm literally asking, what are your pain points? Here's my Rolodex. Let me figure out how I can help you. And that just turns into partnerships and sales, you know? And it's like, oh, you guys just answered maybe why what I'm doing is effective, because it's so true. I mean, I literally live and breathe it every day. And the echelon, like like I'm talking to the top people in the space, all based off of this and my, like, in relation to the people and the followings and like the people that are quote unquote it in making it, to have hundreds of thousands of followers. You know, my 12,000 is not that big, but I followed your playbook, which you both just said to a T, and it's so powerful, man. So that was great to hear. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I'll tell you the other side of that equation that people need to hear too, and why friendships and just being genuine is so crucial. Is, listen, if you want to sell people something they need to have, you know, you can be anybody and just put up numbers, and if you just make enough calls, fine. But if you want to sell to people who are really movers and shakers, and let's get real honest, right? Alan, you've sold multi-million-dollar homes. Mike, you've been in rooms with insanely wealthy people doing pitch decks where millions of dollars are on the line, right? Let me tell you what all those people have in common. They have this detector. When it comes to bullshit, they know when they hear it, and they will sniff you out. And the reason it's so important to be real and be genuine with people is it's the only way to connect with those people. It's the only way to get past that, because they're gatekeepers. They're whatever. But when you talk to them, when the people who really make million-dollar decisions, billion-dollar decisions, they'll sniff you out instantly if they think you're trying some psychological trick or some hack. They know, they see right through it every single time. They wouldn't be there if they couldn't. And so I think that's the really big thing to pull from it is it's just easier to be nice and be real with people.
Dude, great insight. Alan, anything to add to this combo?
No, I just think that authenticity has a resonance to it, and people feel it more than they even think it, you know, and that's probably one of the keys to, you know, everything that you guys have built.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And here's the last question, because I think this relates to real estate too, because people that or people in Web3, real estate, I would say any vertical. I think I'm blessed. I thank my mom every day, because I really do think a lot of my authenticity and like this genuineness that exudes from me comes from her. And I lived such a cool, like, my mom was the mom that everybody wanted to have. She was carefree. We had dance parties, and Maddie, like you saw the tail end, obviously, before my parents split up, but like you saw Mama in some like pretty cool glory days. But when I was even younger, before we moved up to Imesville, like she had a daycare, like it was just an amazing experience. My question is, I got to experience that. I think inherently that's just one of my skills. You know, we talk about superpowers all the time. I think that's just ingrained in me. I mean, I've had many people say like, bro, how do you type through a keyboard? And I can tell you really care about me through a keyboard, right? Like not even seeing his face, which is like, okay, I got something there. My question is, we know how important this is. Someone that struggles with this, what do you do? I don't know. I don't even have the answer, because a lot of times I'm so in the zone, like even in this podcast. One of the things to me is like when you're in the zone, you don't even think about it. It just kind of happens, you know? So like, how can we give advice to people? And this may be to you, Alan.
I'm going to team Matt up to answer this question. Matt, you remember that book that we read forever ago, The Greatest Salesman in the World?
Yeah.
How would you distill the essence of that into someone that maybe isn't really in a sales role, or, you know, might not react perfectly to that book style?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Og Mandino's concept was with his scrolls and The Greatest Salesman was you have to build habits. You have to build a foundation. And so skipping to level 9 doesn't do you any good if you don't know how to do level 1. And level 1 in that book, the mantra he teaches at level 1 is, I will greet this day with love in my heart. And if your mentality is love those around you, try to do the best you can for them with their best interests at heart, you will start there. That doesn't mean, by the way, you have to have the answers. It means you have the right mentality. Like you said, authenticity, it resonates. I think that a way to start a conversation, Mikey, if someone's struggling with that, here's what you need to think about. Most people think a sale takes place with you on one side and this person on the other. Okay. And we're gonna figure out who's gonna win this sales transaction, right? When you realize that you can come around and be side by side with somebody, it's a much easier conversation. And just start with that. If this is something you struggle with, rather than seeing it as an opponent or somebody, an objective, say, all right, why don't we go about this side by side as if we were going to do it together? And if that's all I can offer, right? I can't tell you how to do something I don't know how to do, Mikey, but I can tell you this: I'm your friend and I'm going to be there with you and we'll figure it out together. And people feel that. And that's a good place to start, because then you're willing to learn with the person, grow with the person, whatever it might be. And even if it's a completely corporate, relationship, they see that. And that doesn't take any effort. It doesn't take any skill or specific knowledge or closing technique. Just say, all right, let's do it together. We'll figure it out. And we'll go side by side and work through it. And when they see that and they see you working for them, working with them, it's a whole different dynamic. And again, takes the pressure away.
Yeah, beautiful insight. Amazing way to put it. Alan, anything to layer on, or did Maddie nail it?
I'll say that, that's easier said than done, know, and that book, has like a set of like priming exercises to help you get there. But what's more practical in my day-to-day life is really my faith. The more I am in touch with the life I'm trying to live and trying my best, living at that highest, thing, which is not often a great example, but the more I'm trying, the better it is, the better everything seems to flow,
Really? No, I think I love that insight, man. And I think people need to, Maddie and I, we talk about this and we go back and forth, and we've talked about religion on this show. And I don't think, obviously when you get into the social and streaming side of religion, but not to the I don't want to talk about like what's right and wrong. Like there's multiple religions, multiple beliefs, but the spirituality part of it is what I like to talk about. And I think is important, is because it's the mind, body, and soul principle, right? And so making sure that's aligned too, and you have a context as to why you're getting up in the morning and why you're driving towards this bigger meaning is absolutely a great insight. So thank you for sharing that. I lied because I have one more question, and I promise we'll get to real estate. But I think this is very important. It's a fascinating topic. And I think all this stuff is already going to relate to real estate. And dude, we have got like sizzle shorts, gentlemen. We've got a lot of bombs that have been dropped here. This is my last question, and we will get to real estate is why? Why, oh, why is it still, and I think, and maybe I'm wrong, would love to hear your opinion. When I think about sales, to be effective, it's about being over the top, pushy, getting a yes when you hear a no, this typical aggressive sales mentality. Because I think for some odd reason, this persona still exists when like, and I'm not gonna lie, it still exists in day company I work for now. There's a lot of people that I hear all the time say you can't take no for an answer. Why does that still exist? Why was that always been a thing in the sales world?
So I'll take a stab at it and give you a 2 or 3 prong answer to that. Number one is because the people that sell sales training, that's what they're selling. Is they're selling a playbook, they're selling a persona, they're selling if you learn these things, you will get these results. No one will ever tell you no again, and you'll bat 1,000, right? So again, speaking of motivated reasoning, understanding where they're coming from and what they're going for, drawing inspiration from it instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying that all sales training is bullshit, realizing that, okay, that's why they're saying that. Let me take that and adapt that to what I'm trying to do, which is to build authentic connections. And so there's also phase 2 to that is there's a grain of truth to it, right? Don't take no for an answer in the sense that like no doesn't actually tell you anything. No doesn't help them most of the time, nor does it help you. Why? There's a why instead of a no that usually you can find some sort of collaborative effort around that is going to lead to a better solution. Otherwise, most of the time, if there really wasn't some reason to be talking, doing business together, you just wouldn't be talking, right? Mm-hmm. So most of the time, the context is set up in the sense that like, probably there's a good fit here, right? If there isn't a good fit, then like get out of there quickly and both of you move on with your life. But if you're really into a sales process, there probably is a decent fit. And it's just a matter of working around constraints, figuring out what's going on, whose ego is out of line and where and why, no is oftentimes a starting point because no gives you an idea. If you understand why they're saying no, if they say no and you can get them to tell you why, then you get to help, and then you can understand their perceived constraints, right? They're telling you no because they think something is true. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And then you can get into the reasons why they think that and see if there's a solution to be found. And many times you see like tremendous relief on people's face when they're like, well, I don't want to buy a house. And it's like, well, hey man, no worries. I'm not trying to sell you a house, but what's holding you back? And they're like, well, I don't have 20% saved up for a down payment and I have some credit card debt. And I've been working on that for 7 years. And by the way, home prices have tripled in those 7 years. Right. So I'm still getting screwed. And it's like, well, you got incomplete information, my friend. Let's look for an answer here.
Right. I love it, man. Maddie, anything to layer on that or Alan nail it?
I mean, that was a fantastic answer. That was a good answer. And I think you really hit it on the head. You got to remember motivated reason. If they're selling you their training, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you got to look at what they're saying. I think it is. I mean, it gets idolized, right? They don't make movies about. I should say this. They make more movies about Wolf of Wall Street and boiler room style sales, right? It's interesting and dynamic, but the truth is that even when Jordan Belf, you know what I'm trying to say, Wolf of Wall Street, when he even when he sells, he's the first to say, like, his first qualifying question is, do you even need this product I'm selling you? And if the answer is no, he hangs up the phone. Like, if somebody's just not a client and has no interest in it, what's the point?
Right.
But to Alan's point, once you realize, wait, this is a potential customer and they're not saying no because they don't like the product, I just need to find out why they're saying no.
Mhm.
That's different. That concept of trying to peel the layers back of the onion and get to a true cause of why,
Mhm.
then you can have a conversation and they can see if you're doing it in a genuine way.
Right.
Try to solve it with them. Again, I just think people miss that nuance and think you just have to like crush them over the head till they say yes.
Absolutely, man. Fantastic conversation, gentlemen. And now we're going
Yeah.
to episode 3. So, Alan, well, one, I want to make sure there's no hard stops. I'm thinking we can go another 20 minutes, a half hour. Does that work for everybody?
Works for
I
me.
got plenty of time.
Okay. Yeah, we can go a little. I don't have a hard stop. I just know it's later for you guys. So let's go. We have talked about all of these sales principles. We have talked about motivations, learning lessons, all of these things. Alan, I'm really interested in now. Why real estate after all of this experience, growing, learning? Like, again, the thing that fascinates me, 18 years old, you're already thinking about these things that, well, honestly, I didn't start thinking about till I was 38, man. I mean, like, this is insane, right? So why real estate? And then we will get into this because I'm really interested in this journey.
It's interesting, and it's fun that you guys take the time to set up the question so well. But I spent so much time thinking about what was going to be the next move. So like, and in many ways, I stumbled through the beginning of real estate, but definitely didn't stumble into it by accident. I was more dealing with the other issue, which was choking on opportunities. Everyone's making $1 million every 10 minutes doing everything. Freaking out over FOMO of many opportunities. Which one am I going to chase? What am I going to do? And knowing that I was going to pivot from something into a whole new other thing. And I picked real estate for a number of very specific reasons. Number one, I understood that I wanted to build like a deep level of expertise and to get really good at something. And I knew that, this advice, I think, is the best advice that anyone can get in career advice in general, which is if you become the best at something, it doesn't matter exactly what it is. But if you become really good at something, you will have plenty of money.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be the very best, like top 0.1%. And other times you just need to be top 10%. Right. And so looking at real estate, I realized that at an intuitive level, right, I was said, this is probably the biggest business in the world. Like you've got the biggest thing that people will ever buy, a house, times the most number of potential clients. Everyone wants a house, right? So I was like, I don't have to do a lot of math to realize that this is pretty big. And just for fun, I recently tested that because ChatGPT wasn't out then, and now all the information in the world is out there. And so I recently I said, hey, where does residential real estate stack up in terms of market cap, right? And it's it's a massive, by far the biggest industry in the world in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And so it'd be a fun little guessing game on that. Like if you could guess, let's say the market cap, right? Market cap meaning like the total number of the amount of revenue that happens in a year across different industries, right? If I was to say, guess the total market cap for the music industry globally. You're not going to have a good answer, but just pick a number.
I don't know. 500 billion, half a trillion.
It's like
I would have said like 20 billion. I don't know, 30 billion.
That's pretty close. It's 30 billion, something around there. I'm kind of rounding, right? And then if you were to guess the total market cap of the, let's say the fast food industry,
100 billion.
900. Okay, so I'll jump in just to
900 billion.
900 billion. Yep.
Holy shit!
Now
That's why we're all,
That's
which
wild.
leads us to the diet industry. And I'm sorry.
That is wild. Okay.
Now here's
Okay.
a wild one, right? So when you think about crypto as an industry, right? Web3, everything related to that, where it's currently kind of valued, pick a number. There's probably a bunch of dispute around this.
Crypto? I mean, it's not
All the crypto currently
In the
out there at
world?
its current value.
man.
Couple
this is-
trillion.
This is something I should know, but I don't know. I'd actually say it's under the fast food, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's 1.5 trillion. So it's on. You guys should feel pretty good about being in this space because it's another 50% more than fast food. Right?
And real estate is
300 trillion.
jeez, mighty.
Right?
300 trillion. Wow,
So
that's a banger of a number right there.
it's I mean it's 3 times the total value of this actual stock market, right? Like it's just it's the biggest without any like category, right? And it doesn't no one needs that kind of market. It's like the value of all the homes in the world. It's kind of a crazy
Right.
crazy thought. But I realized, listen, I could make money as a basically like as a individual active income level. Matt, I know, is intimately familiar with the cash flow quadrant. Is that a concept that's come up on this show before, or is this something we should take the time to explain?
Not really. I mean, you can give a high overview of it, but yeah, I mean, I think this is relevant for this conversation. So go for it as much as you want to share, my man.
So the cash flow quadrant basically breaks down the different ways that income can be created for an individual. Okay. And it describes it in 4 categories: employed and self-employed, which are on the active income in the sense that you make money by trading time for money. It's like a linear progression. More time equals more money, basically up until you're out of time, right? And then on the other side, you've got what is more passive or residual or repeating or recurring revenue, which can be built through a business system, which could be systems of business, people, automations, whatever. There's a bunch of processes that could be business automations. And then the final category is investments, where your business is making you money without you in the equation in the B quadrant. And then in the investment or the I quadrant, your money is making you more money.
Mm-hmm.
And by learning my way through real estate, I was going to be able to operate in all 4 of those quadrants at the same time. I could make money by helping people buy and sell homes. I could build a business of realtors and real estate agents to work together with. I could build that out into a business machine that could potentially, become a self-operating entity, and make money residually and possibly sell that business as an asset one day. And I could learn the ins and outs of real estate for the purposes of investing, owning, and making educated, informed decisions about buying and selling properties, owning, being able to properly value them, and take a lot of the risk out of the equation of doing all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Love it, man. And so my head naturally goes into, when I think real estate, I think single home, right? We just talked about a $300 trillion market. There's so many facets to real estate. So somebody that is just bought a home or thinking about buying a home, how do you look at the real estate market? What are the industries within the real estate realm, things that excite you, things that you're working on, where you want to spend your time? I don't think we want to go through the nuances of like, here's how you buy and sell a home. I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in the higher level view of what's happening in the real estate industry right now.
Yeah. Well, real estate's interesting because it's kind of at this intersection of a lot of different things. It's the place where you spend all your time, right? And you actually just like do life. And it's the place that you have is your base of operations, where you get to and from work, your kids hang out, your kids' school. A lot of these things are dependent upon your specific home, right? Then on top of that, it's also a big part of the financial picture for almost every single person, right? That home is a lot of people's biggest asset. And that process and that financial equation means a lot to people. You get that right, and it's going to make a big difference in your life over the long haul. And then on top of that, if you've got extra money, real estate is one of many good things to invest in. It's one of the more stable, predictable, dependable sources of or places to invest. That's got all kinds of tax cheat codes and cool things to go along with it. So, and you can play all of those things together. In fact, the way that we've acquired most of our properties has just been by strategically buying homes that we were going to live in, that we needed, but then also turning those into rental properties along the way. And it's a formula that really anybody can follow. And that can be a natural progression in life. It's a tried and true method of house hacking that you'll hear a lot of people talk about. And that's just one example of, by developing a little bit of fluency in the industry, you can set yourself up to do some pretty cool things without going too far out of your way.
Love it, dude. And somebody that is interested in it, talk about a little bit of your evolution of getting into the industry, lessons learned, what has worked, what has not worked. I'd love these insights.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people get into real estate. They kind of they fall into it and they're looking at it as like, I can benefit from by helping people that I know buy and sell homes. I can help them, I can help me, and I can make great money. And that actually is probably most realtors' origin story, right? And a lot of people have made a lot of money doing that and just said, all right, I'm going to help a few people buy and sell. Why not? I like it. I find it interesting. I kind of got a knack for it. And they kind of start off that way. And that's a great low bar to start off with. It's a very reasonable thing. And with, 65 hours worth of licensing, you can find yourself in a 6-figure easy career, Right. I looked at it a little differently, where I was like, wow, we've got this big market, all these cool things, so much innovation happening, things that, Monica and I know how to do. We can build a business in this space, and this can be a sandbox for entrepreneurship that can provide for our immediate needs, but also we can really build it to whatever level we want. There's no ceiling there.
That excites me. Talk to me about building business within real estate, because I think a majority of the people that hear real estate think exactly that. It's the glorified thing on TV. We're house flipping. It's the Property Brothers type of thing. Talk to me about your journey in building businesses within real estate, whether it's through different companies, through your own kind of journey or blueprint that you've built. Super interested.
I'll share my journey, because probably people that have ever thought about getting into real estate will identify some of their reasons why they might have wanted to get into it, or the reasons they did. And then also, I think it kind of answers a lot of questions along the way. So, the way that I got started was I just joined a local brokerage, and I just started taking advice from agents that were a little bit more successful, but I was just taking cold leads, calling them, and trying to turn those into clients, right? And I was just learning the ropes, doing the basics. And I was at just whatever brokerage was closest. I knew somebody at a brokerage. I was at a local RE/MAX franchise, and I had a good amount of help there to learn the basics. But also it was, speaking of the E quadrant, right? Just an employee, a place to sell a couple of homes. It was not a bad spot for that, but it wasn't going to let me build much beyond that. And after I became a little bit more established, and, my first year as a full-time agent, I was part-time hustling, grinding, doing all the things at the same time, and finally built up the confidence to make real estate my full-time thing. And that first year as a full-time agent, just mostly out of sheer terror of not having enough money, ended up making great money, And, I made just shy of $300,000 my first year as a full-time agent, which was 3 times my target. And I was like, okay, wow, there's something really here. But I also felt like I was losing my mind because I didn't have any systems, any structure. It was just all grind, hustle, wake up early, do contracts after the kids go to sleep, take a phone call all the time. And it took over my life. And
Right.
Back to those first principles, I didn't want to live that way forever. So then we started building a real estate team. We're like, okay, my wife can generate, Monica, she can generate leads. We can call those leads. I know sales. I'll teach people how to do it. We're going to create a machine to create a bunch of leads, give those out to other agents, help people buy and sell homes through online marketing. Right. And we built out a team of 5 or 6 agents, and we're basically trying to help them do the same thing. And we moved from a RE/MAX franchise over to another franchise that positioned itself as a little bit more forward thinking, a little bit more tech friendly. It's a franchise called NextHome. And it was probably just trying the next iteration of that local RE/MAX franchise. And, learned some more things there, but also realized that, having a small team by itself, you need systems plus a team in order to get any of your life back.
Yeah.
And it's there's a lot of struggles there that, if you don't have a tried and true system to do that, it can be difficult to feed all of those agents, train all of those agents, do all of those things. So that kind of took me through that E quadrant where I was employed, self-employed. And then when I saw then I ran across another business model that was it was less of like a traditional, like this is where the local office is. And it was more of a global brokerage. Right. And they were like, hey, we're one big brokerage. And it was the first cloud-based brokerage. It was a company called EXP. And they also offered the ability to partner up with agents in creative ways and to share revenue in flexible ways, right? So like if I were to train and mentor and help other agents at EXP, their success would also then trickle up to me and benefit me. And I could share these lessons that I fought so hard to learn and help other agents avoid the pain and learn from what I learned. And then I also had a bunch of support from a higher level with other support structures within that business that were designed to help a bunch of agents all at the same time. And so they positioned themselves as the first cloud-based brokerage, and they really absolutely shook up the industry. Great people doing great things. And I realized that if you want to learn sometimes from the very best people, you have to get outside of your local real estate market, because the best people in your market don't want to compete with you inside their local market. So when you went national like that, it exposed me to this massive playbook of incredible agents that had done really inspiring things.
Right.
Built teams of hundreds of agents, sold hundreds of homes a month instead of a year, and kind of exploded my vision of what was possible. And then that carried me over to now where I'm at today, which is like the first AI powered brokerage.
Whoa, talk to me about this, because now we're getting, so let's recap before we get to AI.
Yep.
The first 3 phases that you just talked to me about, really literally starting as like a real estate RE/MAX agent or whatever the company plug, Long and Foster, or whatever the brand names are there, to then owning a little team, to then going to a bigger kind of worldwide, like you said, cloud-based organization. Is it just the systems that is the biggest differentiator? Talk to me about the top 2 or 3 things as you make this evolution that you think benefited you as a real estate entrepreneur.
So interestingly, that last word is probably the biggest difference, right? A real estate entrepreneur. There are real estate entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of them, but most agents that you know of are not entrepreneurs. They're self-employed people, or they're employees of a brokerage, whether or not they're 1099 or W-2.
Interesting.
Right? And that was probably the biggest difference, is that as I got exposure through this cloud brokerage to people that were real entrepreneurs in the real estate space, it expanded my vision of what was possible. And I saw people that were creating crazy amounts of passive income. That's where I was really first exposed to some of the nuance of multifamily, even though it wasn't the path that I had the time to explore. You know, I was exposed to that information through that kind of cross pollination of just, you know, big fish in a big pond, you know?
Right. And so is it now, I want to concentrate on the entrepreneur thing before we get to AI. It's the same thing that any entrepreneur would say about the skill sets needed in this specific real estate realm, or are there other strengths? Is it understanding systems? Is it understanding real estate markets around the world? What are these traits for a successful real estate entrepreneur? Or is it the same thing of saying they're pretty much the same traits as starting a startup in Silicon Valley?
You know, in my initial opinion on that is, like, there's a million ways to make $1 million in real estate, right? Like, you could have a million different, maybe millions, not the literal word, but like you could have a lot of different types of real estate businesses. You could have an individual agent that sells a lot of homes. You could have a big old team of agents that sell a bunch of homes together. You could specialize in one part of the industry or the other. So the biggest thing is really your vision of, like, what is it that you want to create? What is the outcome that you're optimizing for? Is it, you know, you just love buying and selling homes and you can't wait to do more of it? And there's people that are wired that way. I wasn't wired that way. Or do you want to build a residual income and maybe help other agents optimize their life so that, you know, they're not running into a lot of the downsides of the real estate business, which is that it takes over your life.
Right. Dude, amazing insight. Maddie, I'm going to open it up to you because I know you've been kind of going down this rabbit hole. Hit me, brother.
So my question for you, Alan, is this. So as a newer real estate agent, right, a lot of people take the same journey you did. They start out in just either residential. Some people go straight to commercial, but for the most part, you start on the residential track, and then you kind of like learn the ropes and kind of decide where you want to end up and what path in real estate you want to take. Could you give some of those insights? Let's say I am the person that just, you know what, I like selling houses. I like finding people homes. I'm okay doing the reps. You know, I don't mind that. I don't mind being at open houses. What's something that's important for a person that just wants to stay in the E quadrant of real estate? What's important for them to know so they can still have the best shot at success? What's important for somebody who does want to step into that S quadrant and maybe start their own brokerage, whatever it might be? What's important for them to know? And then finally, if they're going to make that transition over, and as you use the term entrepreneur, a real estate entrepreneur, and they want to go over into that kind of B and I playing field, what are things they should be looking at differently? Because their goals, what they need is going to be different. What's your thoughts on that?
Reiterate on the quadrants, just in case somebody came in this late.
Sure. So as an employee in real estate, you have a boss, you have that is essentially either, whether it's just a broker, you are trading your time, you're selling houses, you're getting a commission, and that's it. Your brokerage is getting a portion of that. You're just doing that over and over. You're doing reps, right? For someone else who is paid to start that business that you work for, right? Like Alan said, 1099 or W-2, however you want to separate it. You're an employee. Some people say, I'm going to own the business myself. They buy into a franchise, they're a broker, and then they have agents under them. That's that S quadrant, small business owner. The B and I quadrant on the passive side of the quadrants, where you have either systems, a business system that works for you, creates money passively, or just through the investment where your money is making you money. So those are their quadrants, and you can participate in all four of these in real estate. And I think that people participating in those four quadrants probably need a different thought process. And I'm curious, Alan, your insight on that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And there are, you can take an optimization framework to your business model in any one of those quadrants, right? So if you just want to sell, if you want to make as much money as you can as a real estate agent, right? Then you look at how can you get the higher priced homes, and how can you get the most of them, and how can you spend the least amount of time to acquire those clients, right? And so, you know, you optimize that way, and you realize, okay, well, if I just spend my time on listings instead of on showing homes, it takes actually much less time to list a home than it does to help someone buy a home. So there's a tremendous time savings in that, and every bit of time that you save, you can reinvest, and it becomes it's a flywheel. And the same thing goes for the sales price. It doesn't take any more effort to sell $1 million home than it does to sell $100,000 home. In fact, it's easier. It's much easier to sell at a higher price point than it is to sell at a lower price point. You know, assuming you are capable of working with those clients and you can relate to them and they can relate to you, the actual transaction is easier at a higher price point. So if you were just to optimize on those two things, right? To be a high-end listing agent and like make that your target, you would make a lot more money than if you just took whatever business you could find, right? So it depends on what you actually create your business plan to take you towards, right? You know, and then the third dynamic is not spending as much time on finding clients. If your clients are finding you in some way, whether that's through a referral, through social media, through content, through, you know, an ad funnel, right? The less time that it takes to acquire that customer, and if you can level up the price point, and you can figure out which side of the deal you want to be on, where maybe you have a partner agent that handles the buyers and you stay on the listing side. And this is like, you know, on the Optimal Agents thing, we go through like a gigantic framework to help anybody achieve the specific outcome that they want in real estate, right? So it's like, maybe if that's your goal, is just to sell as many homes as you possibly could, and you want to be $1 million agent, there's an optimization process for that. And it's the same levers. It's just here's the menu of the levers that you can toggle: price, acquisition cost, you know, time input, listing versus buy side. Like there's a lot of different things that you can play with the levels on to optimize for a specific result. And, right, you know, for me in my current like active transitional, like the time that I spend doing deals for my clients, it's not optimized for maximum income. It's optimized for minimal time input. Because my objective is to, you know, feed the family, make sure that we're comfortable in as little time as possible, because all of the other things that I'm doing are going to have much higher upside than selling homes. So I've optimized for, you know, a strong 6-figure income on as little hours as possible, so that I can invest it into my business.
Yep. Love it, man. That's a great insight. So now let's get to I'm fascinated by AI. So let's talk about this transition over to where you currently are and how they're utilizing AI in real estate.
So it's interesting. So the internet enabled new categories of businesses across the board. You went from Blockbusters to Netflix. You're right. You went from physical businesses to digital businesses. And the same thing happened in real estate. People stopped operating out of, you know, franchised office space, you know, next to your local bank, and doing that as that's your headquarters for your real estate business. Right. They switched to the cloud, and they realized, well, we can do all of the stuff that we need out of a virtual office pretty much as well as we can do it out of a physical office. That was one step. And then they took the extra money that was efficient to that, and they said, well, we're going to incentivize other agents to grow this and have them be partners in the growth of the company. So then the next iteration of that I've seen, a lot of people have tried to iterate on it, but the one that I've seen be most successful has taken that really to the next level of efficiency, right? So now they're able to use, and AI is not the entire conversation, but it's a great starting point to the conversation, where, you know, they've used really smart, efficient systems to then create a very efficient business. And what they've done is they've given that money back to the agent so you can make more money out of each deal that you're doing. And they've also then taken the scale of that to create just a sick benefits package to being associated with the company, right? So typically when you think of being a real estate agent, you're thinking of like, well, I'm on my own. I'm going to get my own healthcare. I'm going to, do everything on my own. I'm like, I don't get the 401k package. I don't get a benefit. I don't get any of these perks, but it's okay. I'll make up for it by selling a bunch of homes and making a lot of money. That's the trade-off that most people take. Epic, which is this AI brokerage, has taken their like relentless focus on efficiency to add a crazy benefits package to the idea of a cloud-based brokerage with AI efficiency in it.
Got you. So it's a systems play with AI taking out some of the human work. Here's what's interesting to me though, is large corporations usually take those profits and line a lot of people at the top. So why is that not happening in Epic?
That's what's different. Man, what a great point, Mikey. So if you were an already established company and you found additional efficiencies and you already had shareholders, you're not going to give that money back to the agents. Your business is already built and it's built differently, right? Mm-hmm. However, if you've been built to be as attractive as possible to the agents, and now that's your goal. Your goal is to be the very best environment for realtors to go. And that's your goal. Your goal is not to be as profitable to your board of investors or in your quarterly statement. Your goal is just to actually build the best brokerage. And now you find all of these efficiencies and you get creative on how to wrap these efficiencies into being the best brokerage. They've gone, they've done such a better job than I would have thought possible, and taken an efficient approach to it. So I'll give you some examples, right? Like, I always had to take on the cost of having a transaction coordinator, right? Which is like an assistant that helps you with some of the ins and outs of doing a real estate deal. Well, they said, all right, we've got processes, we've got people, we're going to create a transaction coordination company inside the company. And now every agent gets a free transaction coordinator. And so that was huge savings for me, but also for every agent that I recruit. Like when I was building a team, I had to, either pay for their transaction coordinator or tell them why they should pay for a transaction coordinator. And it was tough. It's like a full-time hire that you had to do. When I was running the big team, like we had a full salary transaction coordinator that supported those agents. And now I didn't have to deal with that.
Right.
They found ways to give agents real healthcare, free prescriptions, pet sitting, babysitting hours for helping single agents do open houses and last minute showings. So like they've got a babysitting app that they pay for subscriptions for, to like all the free marketing materials, free billboards. It's like a 60+, it's like the most sick benefits package. Then they just happen to add it onto a really incredible brokerage. So what they've optimized for, instead of profit, is they've optimized for being the very best place to be an agent. And they've made their business scalable at that level. So say, okay, we're going to make the money that we make per agent. We're just going to make it as good as it can possibly be so that more agents want to come. And it's gone, it's like that hockey stick growth chart that everyone always wants.
And so could you make this journey from like cloud, like all of these different quadrants, traditional, all the way to like thinking about your business? Like, how did you find, I'm interested in this growth pattern of like, is this just like, hey, I know somebody's working here and this looks interesting, let me go check it out? Like, how did you get to this kind of end hybrid of this like AI cloud and what we think of traditional real estate?
So there were so many advantages to the cloud-based model. that I immediately recognized as like, for anyone that's doing anything on social media, you're dealing with a national or a global audience, but as a realtor, you can only sell homes in your backyard. So the algorithm might put you in touch with 1,000 people, and you'd be lucky if one of them cared about you as a realtor, right? So I wanted to be able to reach a much broader audience and build a network of agents that was not geographically dependent, right? They didn't, it could be anywhere, anytime. And the cloud-based brokerages gave me that. I thought that was fantastic, because then we could build things out at a higher scale without having to open up, offices across from every mall,
Mm-hmm.
And so your question of like, how did it come through? So in the brokerage space, everyone's kind of watching the other brokerages for inspiration and cooperation and competition. And in this case, Monica, we were at EXP, and Monica, and we were recruiting agents to work with us across the country so we could help them and do a lot of cool things together. And Monica said, "Hey, have you heard of Epic?" And I was like, "No, there's so many of them out there." And she was like, "They have like free healthcare. They have childcare. They have prescriptions. Like they have free transaction coordinators." And I was like, "That's all bullshit. Like they all say a bunch of stuff." Like,
yeah.
And I was like, it's nothing. She's like, "Well, you might want to look at it because it's interesting." That's how a lot of things go in our relationship.
I'm right, but you can go research it yourself if you want to.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And I think so. Let's I think we can start winding down here in the sense that we've gone through this magical journey. I'm still really interested in the AI aspect, and then of course I've got to ask like blockchain, Web3 type stuff, because that's my wheelhouse as well. And I think there is a lot of people we've had. Matt's joined me for some podcast of guys really trying to figure out. It will be one day. Blockchains, your deeds, your house deed, all of these different things will be on the chain. And how do we fractionalize real estate as it gets more expensive, so you can have a couple $1,000 and get into something pretty big, right? Before we get to that blockchain side and start kind of winding it down, talk to me. I'm interested about just like the AI and this current Epic situation. Is it, like I said, more just like automating systems? Because AI is really good at managing large systems where humans is horrible at it. It's not good at the people thing, which obviously the real estate agents. So what does the AI world look like in your company?
Yeah, it's a good, really good question. And let me answer your previous question a little better than I did. And then let me get right back to that one. Because the reality was, when I started looking, when I ran into that brokerage, I was planning to compete with it, and I was just doing competitive research. I was like, all right, I got to deal with this other company. I'm going to find their weak spot. I'm going to find their bullshit, call them out on it. And then, when I hear people talking about it, I'll know exactly how to shut it down. And I started digging into it, and I couldn't find the catch. And as I started looking at it, I was like, well, shit, now I have to compete with this thing, and it's better than what I've got. And so I was, if you can't beat them, join them. So I started looking into it. And then the question was like, well, how? So I went looking for the catch, and that's where this AI stuff comes in. And they were built much more efficiently, right? So, one of the main roles of a broker is to answer questions that an agent has, right? And so they started their company with many, many different AI tools, like 16 specific, finely tuned tools, one of which is called Broker AI, and it's designed to answer all of the questions according to the broker textbook of each state, right? So and according to the specific rules and regulations of each multiple listing service, each MLS, which is what I called my broker 5 times a day about. And, he was pissed because he was hearing from me over something that, I could have just, Googled possibly, but it didn't have the authority. And I was, pulling my hair out because he hadn't called me back in 3 hours because he had more important issues to deal with. versus now I can, I have a certified, chat instance where I can go in and I can get these commonly, I can this generally available information that I needed to reference in their broker AI platform. And so when you take out all of the, just the friction that goes along with that, and you give people information, now when I need to reach a broker, it's because I have a problem that needs help with, versus, a question of like, hey, does my county allow, road signs or something like that, so that's an example of an efficiency that the company was built around that level of efficiency versus having all of that, management built into it from its infrastructure side.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. It's saving you time. And then, like you said, you can spend the time on the things that you want to and what you think is the right time that you should spend on to grow your business.
Right. So
go ahead.
I was gonna say that's one example. They've done all kinds of, like they've built specific tools to help people automate their listings with their social media. They've built a lot of like proprietary tech platforms. The founder happened to be one of the guys that you would have on your show that knows how to build things and do them really, really well.
I need this dude on my show.
Probably should.
Can we get a hold of this human being?
Josh Miller, he's whenever I hear people talk about founders, I immediately roll my eyes. I'm sorry. It's like a knee-jerk reaction. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they're so great.
Right.
And then I constantly have to walk it back and be like, okay, I see, I see their specific genius and what they actually did bring to the table. Josh is one of those guys.
I love it. Go ahead, Matty.
Yeah. So a couple things. So one of the things I think that is important is I think recruiting is a big part of real estate. Once you move beyond, I can sell a house, I'm confident in that house, right? When you talk about AI too, just as a quick analogy, right? Mike, you and I, just think about you as a graphic designer. And I just put this in perspective. Back at Penn State, I watched Mike meticulously use a razor blade pen, cut out artwork,
Brutal.
to make a portfolio that he had to turn in to do graphic design work. And the time I watched you do that, like the time it took was so painstaking. And now fast forward to what we can do now, and an AI tool with a couple prompts can create an image in high fidelity instantly, right? It's a completely different world.
Wild.
And so the world of real estate, and again, Alan, you can speak to this better than I can, there's so much time you lose in just doing a transaction, even just listing a house. There are processes, and each state has their own rules, and each MLS has their own rules, and you have to go through all of these things and make sure all of this, the T's are crosses, the I's are dotted, all the checklists are done. And an AI tool can do this in seconds. And that was something that, like Alan's point, I got to do my I got to go in at end of night, everybody's gone to bed, and I got to do all these and it was like work. It was real work he had to do when everybody else is playing video games or watching a show or spending time with their spouse. He's crunching those. And when you take that off your plate, you still get you get all the juice, but none of the squeeze. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
you're still
right.
getting the good part of what you can make in real estate, but you're not doing the boring part. Quite frankly, the part that kept me away from real estate that I didn't like.
Right.
And so that is one massive factor. But the part, and please expand on that, Alan, but also the recruiting part, I think, is a really big part too, because to your point, Alan, I watched you when you were managing that team, and forget even your own properties. You were answering the phone, dealing with the team so much. Being able to optimize that with AI, if I'm in real estate and I'm thinking I'm ready to take the next step, right? I feel confident in my ability to list a house, sell a house, whatever it might be. Now I'm realizing that I'm capped at my time. I can only sell so many houses right now. I want to start building a team because I see the efficiency in that. Where is Epic coming into play that helps? What is the AI doing? What has Epic done to help optimize that process? Can you talk about both of those?
Yeah. So, the AI side of it really is an extension of a principle of like efficiency, right? And to I think Mike's point, I've heard very few people recognize this as quickly as he did. You know, in order to, most companies, when they find that efficiency, it just goes to their bottom line, right? You have to be, you had to be born in an era of new efficiency in order to think differently about that extra that you're able to do with the efficiency. And so immediately, as soon as you get into, okay, I need the leverage of other people, I need more people to work with together in order to do more real estate, sell more deals, right? There's most people times the highest sales price, but I've only got 24 hours in a day to do this. You need more people. And immediately when you do that, now you're in almost an arms race with every other brokerage that is also trying to do the same thing. And there's a tug of war between different brokerages around what does it take to attract top talent. And the thing that sucked the life out of me when I was building a small team at a local brokerage was I was with all these I was with newbie, rookie, part-time agents that needed a lot of me, that just was me doing it through them essentially. Right. Versus if I've got a solid agent that comes on board and partners up with me, I don't have to deal with all that stuff. We can just partner together and work together. So it gave me, an unbeatable edge in the arms race to now be able to attract better talent, work together with people. And now I can have the leverage of other people as well as all the systems and stuff that I'm getting from the company. But it's just a more attractive conversation to have with people when when we can tell them things like, hey, all of your listing expenses are free. Why? Because we're more efficient. All of, healthcare, 24/7 roadside assistance, they just announced a 401k. Like I've never heard of a realtor with a 401k,
Wow.
And again, it's partially because I feel like the founders have this attitude of like, we're just going to make this, like the game is how good can I make it? And I feel like I don't know them that well. I haven't asked them this question yet, but I feel like their motivation is like they have something to prove that they just want to make it as good as it can be. Back to the doing the right things for the right reasons point from earlier.
Dude, 100%. And I think that the mission is huge for any founder, but at the same time, this is a prime example of how AI, like it's already happening now, bro. In a year from now, it's going to be nutty. And like, if you're not on that train, I tell everybody this, I'm like, guys, how do you not realize that hundreds of thousands, if not millions they're called agents, online agents are social profiles, right? They're just run by AI that you think are human. Like that just blows my mind. I think if you talk to 100 people on a New York City street right now, there might be 5 or less that say, yeah, I know that's happening. Like people are just oblivious, bro. And so exactly what we said, AI is amazing at doing very large logical systems like this that free up the human aspect. One of the projects that where we just, and we'll probably still consult like on a monthly basis, but not as much. Their whole ethos, and this is actually like, dude, I'm going to link you up with them because this is like a whole business potential. And there's so much like this got my brain turning like, dude, we need to figure out how to continue to talk about these technologies in real estate because I think it can make a really good, just a content series in general. Like even if we do it once a month, but this guy, Project 89, like really, really creative, interesting human being. But the whole goal is, have you seen Westworld? Do you know the whole thing? Okay, so you haven't, Matt has. The whole theory behind Westworld is the same thing, right? Golden rule, even if AI are robots, they're going to get so sophisticated that they're going to understand human emotion. You need to treat them the same. The golden rule applies even if it's an AI, really sophisticated AI robot, right? So his concept is, again, AI is really good at systems and things like this to get it done in an instance. Like to the point where he's like, dude, if we actually had systems that integrated, like world hunger should not be a thing. There's plenty enough food in this world. We're just horrific at organizing these large scale systems, right? And like AI could solve that if the right human beings were running it. But his point is, just as much as we need AI needs us, which is AI needs to understand how humans interact with the world. And so he's creating this whole gamified universe that has AI agents, but everyone's an agent in this world. Humans are agents, AIs are agents. And it's creating this like organic symbiosis between humans and AI on how to make things better. But it's a perfect parallel to real estate, right? Because this is exactly what you're talking about is happening right now. Humans have this part of real estate that AI will never be able to replicate. But as these systems evolve together, the people that are treating it right and doing it right can just unlock ungodly potential. Not to mention the fact that you're just talking about efficiency. Wait till your founders or people that we can link up, hence why I need to talk to this founder. We're now going to wrap in your own personal investor in real estate that understands real estate investment at a large scale plus stock market. And he's going to create literally your own investment company based on your assets that you're sitting on. AI can do that right now. They're like literally spawning smart contracts, day trading, everything right now in the space. It's going to get wild, man. So this stuff really fascinates me, and I'm so excited we got there. Maddie, any thoughts? Any thoughts for you, Alan? Did I just blow your mind bringing it to the next level?
Well, Alan, if you want to respond, but I have some more questions for you. But yeah, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, to those points, Mike, I think, I think most people are starting to realize this, but there is going to be a massive consolidation in every single industry. Mm-hmm. And real estate will be no exception, right? And, there's a saying, that I heard, and I've said it early and I'll keep saying it, but like AI is not going to replace real estate agents, but the agent using AI better than you will replace you.
Yes. And
there will be a huge consolidation of that. And think it's just this, it's going to be this, stepping stone thing where real estate agents will become much more efficient, will be able to handle more clients in less time because of this. And this is just one example, but also buyers and sellers, they'll have their own AI agents, and the platforms like Zillow and Redfin will have their own AI interfaces. And the next thing, I haven't heard anyone else talking about this. I'm sure there are people talking about it, but like right now, imagine when the AI is looking through every single listing picture instantly, and it knows what brand of oven you have. It knows what type of flooring is in the pictures from the real estate picture. It knows the exact square footage. It's like matching these things in real time. And now it's doing the automated valuation, right? Instead of just your Zestimate, like that's probably where Zestimates will be next year.
Yep.
Is this computer vision thing.
In a year, bro. I mean, the guys that I'm talking to are predicting within a year, like almost major motion picture level grade video output with the text prompt. Just
well, so let me ask you guys. Okay, so
wait, Matt. This is a perfect break for me. About to pee my pants. I'm gonna let you ask this question, and I will come right back seamlessly. But I gotta go.
Okay. All right. So, Alan, the question I'm going to ask when Mike returns is when he talks about like how that's going to happen in a year and what that's going to change. I'm curious because real estate is also highly regulated, and so there are industries that aren't regulated that AI can just blast through a lot of this stuff. But at the end of the day, I still got to go get an inspection from a certified appraiser who's licensed and through the state to do that thing. And that person probably is going to do a worse job than the AI you just described is going to do in seconds, but I still have to do it or I can't get a transaction through. So I want to talk about that when Mikey gets back, because I'm curious he'll have some insights. But for you right now, I want to rewind back to Epic. You have been in real estate. You went through a journey through different brokerages, and you landed here as now an experienced agent building a team and creating optimal agents to build your business and as a real estate entrepreneur. I'm new at real estate. I'm still just excited to sell a house or I'm moving to multifamily, obviously. But let's take somebody totally new. They just got their license. They finished their training. Tell me what Epic, because you told me the founders are thinking about how to attract the best agents, but some of those best agents are agents that are just getting started. We don't even know they're going to be the best agents. 100%. What are they doing?
That's such a great point, and especially as it follows the trail of the conversation towards technology. You're 100% right that some of the top agents haven't even been licensed yet, right? They're just now starting to think about it because they're thinking about what to do with this next phase of their career. And so for new agents, that's really the lifeblood of every business, but especially real estate, which has a pretty high churn rate. For new agents, there's so many levels of support and training and help, right? It's really great for a new agent. I remember being embarrassed by the basic questions that I was asking to my real estate broker, who had much bigger problems, much higher priced problems. And I'm asking him basic questions. That's the perfect thing for that broker AI chat. You know what I mean? It's like, great, I can just pester you with my hypotheticals instead of, instead of wasting someone's time on it. That's a basic level, right? The next level of that is that they've built in local support. So every single agent that gets started is assigned a local mentor who is paid by the company, incentivized to help that person succeed. So even if, let's say I have an agent that we connect and I'm in Tampa, Florida, and they're in California with Mike, and I may not have that local market expertise, Epic provides a local mentor that's going to step in and bridge the gap and make sure that that person has a cell phone number, has a local help, that has a weekly check-in, that has local events to go to show up and like have coffee and know a real human if they want that, right? That's baked into the business plan locally, as well as a broker for the state, as well as having an assistant, having a transaction coordinator that's going to go through all the paperwork, make sure it's filled out correctly, communicate then back to the client. So that transaction coordinator, I can't tell you how many nights I lost sleep because I was like, I hope this deal's going good. I don't know, and I was like, I hope I filled out that paperwork right. I don't know, and having a transaction coordinator that's going through each file and making sure it's all done. I see it in my system, green light, green light, green light, green light. Everything's done. It's now, they added it to my calendar already. So I see when the deadlines are. I didn't have to take time out of my day to do that. And I would have gotten so much more sleep for the first 3 years I was in business if I'd had a transaction coordinator looking over the paperwork and helping me do that, So it's like you have real one-on-one help. And then they even have people that will follow up with your leads for you, right? So I got a real estate lead come in. This person's like, yeah, I would like to buy a house, but I don't know if I can. And say, okay, great. Well, we got to get you qualified. And then there's a bunch of additional steps that come along with that, right? It's like, and now I have someone that's going to chaperone them through that process that I'm not even paying for, that as soon as I have a viable lead, they'll take it and run with it and get them qualified for me and then bring me back in when this agent's qualified. So much time savings for me as a new agent. And maybe I'm not even skilled enough to do that confidently. Maybe I'm embarrassed about, not knowing how to actually get someone qualified or knowing which mortgage company to talk to and then bridging that gap. So there's all these things in addition to daily live Zoom meetings, right? The founders of the company are on Zooms that are publicly open twice a week. Anybody can show up, open mic, cameras on, ask any question that you want,
Yeah.
And it's just so transparent. Daily, weekly one-on-one coaching if you want it. It's in a group setting, but it's one-on-one. Your turn in the hot seat, right? And then just a video library of training that would, like, it's, you know, they've licensed all of the top courses, like Ryan Serhant's courses, and, you know, they have all of these libraries of courses that are built in to help you, you know, take on-demand training, as well as these crazy libraries of training on how to do the specifics. So the challenge is not, you know, are you supported as a brand new agent? The challenge is, again, which direction do you go in with the opportunity? And that's where the little bit of experience comes in, and helping people take a massive opportunity and scale it down to their particular interest and what they want to do with it. And that's really the part that I like, you know, is okay, so you're in this huge industry, part of a huge brokerage, crazy opportunity. What do you want to do with it? What do you want your life to look like, buddy? And that's where I finally feel like I've been able to take all of the headaches and put them to the side and be able to focus on the person. And that's where I want to be.
Love it, man. That's huge, because that was one of the biggest reasons that when you were talking to me about real estate in the first place, listen, people can talk blue in their face. I actually I'm not a big fan of selling houses. I don't like the idea of transactional real estate, but I love building teams. And so what's neat is that this opportunity as a new real estate agent, right? I don't know what you know. If I brought it, if Mikey right now said, I want to do this, I want to be a realtor, right? I'd say get your license, but I'm not an effective coach for him, right? And so I have to, like, build myself in the traditional world of real estate to a point to even recruit. What I loved about Epic is I can go to Mike and be like, bro, thank goodness you can be a part of this, and you don't need me as a coach, because I would suck at being a coach, right? I'm going to get you the coach in your area with all of the expertise. And whether Mikey's brand new or whether Mikey already has a brokerage with 500 agents, the same rules would apply. And I have access to that. I think that's a massive part of what this offers, because there are people who are good at both. Like you said, huge opportunity, and it allowed it to scale it down to the thing that I want to be able to do.
Yeah.
And it still lets me do that. I think that's massive. So any thoughts on that? Anything to expand on it? Because you know more about it than I do.
I mean, I think that's really a great little encapsulation of it. Is, you know, back to the part of the conversation earlier where we said there's so many types of businesses that you could have in real estate, right? Which are going to lead to different outcomes in the way you spend your time and what you choose to focus on and how you do it and your results. And so you've got a business that is flexible enough to meet people where they're at with their business plan, rather than saying, I need you to sell more houses, which is what happens at every brokerage, you know, around the country.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Love the conversation. Let's do this. Believe it or not, we've only been talking for 2 hours, and this has been phenomenal. Like I told you, it was going to be a magical little ride, Alan. You didn't believe me, but now we're here. And I want to take, and we can wind this down typically how I do in the podcast. What I'm really interested in is, you can start off with any insights about the blockchain Web3 world. Interested. If you don't have any insights, totally fine. And then after that, let's take the next 3 to 6 months. What do you expect? Does the housing market fall apart with all the craziness going in the world? Is, you know, what are you excited about? What are you not excited about? And then after that, always ask one last question. Super softball. Do not start shivering in your pants. And then we'll say our closing comments. Call it a day, man.
But first, Mikey, when you went away, I said, I'm going to ask this question when Mikey gets back, because it's about what you were saying, which is AI has created this insane speed that businesses can grow and how fast they can eclipse things. And my question to Alan is, in real estate or any industry like real estate that is highly, highly, highly regulated, how is the speed at which AI changes the game going to clash with the insane bureaucracy of here's the 28 inspections I have to get by this licensed person. By the way, there's only one in your county. You better make sure you take them out to the right barbecue place on Fridays or you're not going to get a good inspection. Like that whole hustle, how are those things going to collide? I'm curious your take on that, Al.
That's a really good question. And, you know, the amount of disruption in every industry is going to be absolutely insane. So you have to be, you know, there's just a tsunami coming and, you know, we're going to miss most of it, all of us. There's too much to catch, right? You're just trying to catch a little part of what you can catch, and it'll be more than enough if you're paddling, you know? But some industries are vulnerable to the disruption and some are a little more resistant to it. And my opinion is that real estate, residential real estate, daily realtor stuff is actually pretty resistant to like replacement. At the end of the day, because of the stakes in the game, right? This is your house. This is one of your biggest investments. Like you want a expert human overseeing this along with you. Like I'm not going to entrust all of my medical care to an AI right now, right? I also, you know what I mean? I'll do a little bit. I'll do my part. I'll research some stuff before I go into the doctor, but like at the end of the day, that's necessary. And the same thing for buying a home. People want a qualified expert that's human to oversee the AI. And even if they didn't do anything, just to make sure it didn't make a mistake along the way, right? There's going to be a lot of that. Plus, there's a physical component to it. You've still got to go into the house. Every house is unique. It's not like an iPhone where it's like one patch applies to all devices that were made in the same batch. Each house is on its own lot with its own issues and its own problems and its own things. So, you know, there's going to be crazy amounts of efficiency and effectiveness that become possible for agents and for home buyers too. You know, like I'd be fine with, you know, as the industry evolves, if commissions came down and I was just able to help more agents, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Not that I actually don't see that happening, but that's possible and I'd be cool with it, you know, especially if it took me less time to do all the deals together, you know? So I think that real estate, as much as, you know, everyone, when the thought occurs to you of, am I going to be replaced by AI? It's possible, but it's more likely that you will be in an arms race with other people using AI to capture the market that you want to capture.
Yeah. And I think it's a great, and so like from my context of working with AI people, having a lot of AI on, Maddie, it's a good question. And I think the answer is this: not until AI, which again, not too far away, AI creating its own brokerage firm, which is an absolute possibility from an infrastructure standpoint. Now, they're still going to need humans, but when it comes to the incorporating a business, how is that business set up? What does the structure look like? Knowing all the rules and the regulations, the only thing AI is going to need is very few touch points, the human to do the rest. But AI will take care of all of the rest. And we're already at the point where AI can literally create a business. And so when that paradigm shift happens to the point where AI does 80% of the work and humans only have to do 20, the systems are going to have no choice but to figure out what the hell to do with this. And then blockchain would be the other example where humans are going to put a lot, and they are right now, they're trying to figure out, how do we fundamentally make this archaic system of thousands of years at this point more efficient with the blockchain? And the only way that happens is by beating down doors of politicians and regulators to fundamentally change the process. There's a lot of money in this space, and so who knows what happens.
Yeah, because the $1 million question, if we were going to get just pure campfire and get philosophical, is, Alan, what happens when the AI doctor is better than your doctor, right? Now, I know what you want. If we could definitively say that doctor will be better than any human doctor you have. And if you have a tumor, you want the AI, right? The question is will the powers that be, the people who are in charge of those surgeons, right, that dictate their policy, will they relinquish those reins to an AI doctor or whatever it might be? That's the question I'm wondering, is because you're right. We may not be there yet, but you're crazy if you think we're not going to get there. What do we do then? Thoughts, gents?
Yeah. And medicine, I think, is a really interesting example, right? You know, I think right now we have a level of appropriate distrust for AI because it's still making a lot of mistakes, you know? And so
are doctors.
Right. You know, but it's going to make less and less mistakes very
That's
very
what I'm saying. Yeah.
So I think you're right in saying that point is coming very, very quickly. And then, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have put a lot of thought into playing this scenario out, you know, but at some point we're managing the AI and then we make AI managers to manage the AI. And then, you know, and then at some point we're just the feedback into the system of like, well, this killed that guy, so maybe don't do that next time, AI doctor, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, listen, I've played this over a lot in the last 6 months of my life. Like, I've had the top tier AI people in the space on this show. And I think there's two outcomes, and I have to continue to believe in the good in people. This ends very badly, and there is the end of humanity. That is one way, which is a cohort of bad human beings control this. Or there is the other way, which is it does create the closest thing we can imagine to utopia, because there is an abundance of wealth and resources because of the efficiency of AI. Gotta pick one. Maybe there's an in-between. I don't really see an in-between. There could be an in-between, but the reason why I do what I do and why Maddie and I do what I do is the only thing that I think I have a power on at the end of the day is to put more positive and full circle where we started, be a good human being. And the only thing that we can do is get more of those people to be the leaders in this space than not. That's it, man. That's where my head's at.
I know. That's all we'll do, because we all know we could talk about this all night.
We can talk about it forever.
I'm holding back.
So let's do this, brother. Next 3 to 6 months in real estate in general, and then, like I said, one more question, we'll wind it down. And I was up very late last night, and I need to basically go to bed, do it all over again. The grind is real. You got there even later than me, but I'm like, I got to go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Well, I have like, so I'll answer that question because I think it's relevant for anyone that's paying attention right now as far as what's happening. But then my final question back to you two, as you know, real insiders in this space, is where do you see blockchain and real estate going? So we'll get there in a second, because I have my own thoughts, but
yeah, I know.
You guys probably have these conversations all the time, so maybe we can get there.
I do not as much Maddie, but I do. Yeah, I have. Do you want me to ask that? You want me to answer that now?
Yeah, go.
I think what we talked about right now, what Maddie talked about, is the so like logistics, for instance. AI is gonna crush that industry. There's too much money and regulation right now in the real estate world that, because of the $300 trillion number, there's a lot of rich people that want to control that. And I talked to guys, I used to host the DeFi space weekly, and then we're trying to get back to bi-monthly. There's a lot of real world asset real estate guys on it. And it's just the red tape, and they're trying, and it's mountains of lawyers. It's finding one government that's open to it because they're hurting, and blockchain and real estate's going to revolutionize their economy. Like small chisels, even though the tech is there and almost ready, but there's so much even intricacies on the tech back end. Like I'd equate blockchain to, we're still in like Angel Fire days of blockchain, right? There's very basic things going, like for instance, Abstract, which we're streaming on right now. It's the first most consumer friendly crypto platform I've seen. And all it's really doing is aggregating all the information on X into a clean user interface to say, hey, here are the crypto apps, here are the NFT apps, here are the DeFi apps, all in one place, and it's easily searched. And then they have a streaming platform that you can tip in Pengu, which is Pudgy Penguin's currency, or ETH. But even this, I still have to bridge my regular Ethereum to Abstract Ethereum through a mechanism called a bridge, which is basically an exchange for crypto. And that functionality shouldn't even be a thought for somebody that is trying to spend money on our stream, which, by the way, we've gotten tipped some Pengu worth like a quarter of a cent, but we still got tipped some Pengu.
Love it.
That functionality seems so basic, right? But it's not even there yet. So my point is, there's tons on the infrastructure side. There's actually tons of red tape on the legal side because the powers that be don't want it to be changed and they want to control it. So I think it's years away still. I think AI will probably be able to build its own relevant real estate company before blockchain's got its shit figured out.
Do you think AI will solve the coding backlog
of like
you there?
So I think AI is at the point where it can build its own smart contracts, it can create its own crypto wallets, by itself. It'll depend on the merge of blockchain and AI because they're two separate things, right? If someone institutes an AI to say we want you to understand the nuanced legal red tape documentation that goes into putting real estate on the blockchain, and I need you to efficiently do this that makes sure we can get it to market as quick as possible with as least friction as possible. Yes, maybe that will help expedite it, but it's until somebody is really using the AI capacity to figure out the blockchain problem, if that makes sense.
Alan, it's a great question. My answer is this. We need AI to fix the big problems. The fact that we're still using these kind of bureaucratic processes that are just absolutely ancient.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is they're run by bureaucrats who are also ancient, and they are in charge. They have the keys. And so AI is not going to be able to change that quickly. Mike is correct. When it comes to the big things, I don't think AI can fix it fast because they won't let them. But here's what happens. It's like when you try to the scene when the person's trying to patch the holes from the leaking ship with their hands, and like the more you patch, the more holes start presenting. What they can't do is fix people being entrepreneurs and using AIs to solve different real estate problems. For example, let's say I'm trying to look on Zillow and I want to find the perfect dream house. Okay. Well, it's not going to be long before, like you said, it's going to know all their preferences. It's going to know what you want, and it's going to be able to narrow down the best possible deal for you. It's also going to know the behind the scenes stuff, commissions, what's going on with the house. It's going to be able to research data on taxes, deeds, construction, all of that stuff. And it's going to pull all that data And somebody's going to create a version of Zillow, or Zillow will pay off that company who does it to make it part of Zillow, right? And they're going to have supreme house search AI bot, and it's not going to be free. That's what's going to happen, right? Mike, you want the best possible house in San Diego? For the small price of $99.99 a month, I'll get you that. And here's the problem. Everybody in San Diego that's paying for that, all of the AI is going to come up with the same 2 or 3 amazing houses, right? And so then what happens? And I think the clash is going to be, right? Take me or take you. Take somebody that's looking to house hack. I'm looking for a good house to flip. So is everybody else that watches any of the Discovery Channel shows. Somebody's going to write an AI bot, and it's going to find the best house to flip. And it's going to find it instantly, way faster than any guru trying to sell you something on Instagram is going to tell you how to find it. And when it does, it's about how much are you willing to pay to get that answer before everybody else? Because once it's out there, then what happens? I don't know. What happens when the data is so fast? Because a lot of this stuff gets lost in the minutia, right? I mean, you go get a real estate agent. Hey, I'm looking for this. Here's my buy box. Alan, show me some good properties for this. You're doing research. You can get out ahead of those things if you know a few tricks. Well, what do you do when everybody's using the same trick and it's faster than all of our brains combined? I don't know. And I think when that happens, it just becomes another monetized item to get you the best possible deal. And then we go right back to the problem is what we started at in the first place, which is humans are getting in the way of the progress in the first place. You know what I mean? And I don't know what that answer is, you know, because then it's building a better mousetrap. And I don't see a way out of that until somebody can get to the core processes and be willing to change them. That's really hard to do.
100%.
You know? But it's possible. And you know, because listen, growing up, Mike and I would hear about things like big oil, and there's all these conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And it's like, we're never going to get away from petroleum. We're just never going to get away from it, right? Well, incomes, and I'm not just going to put it all on one person, but let's just say, I never thought there'd come to a point where electric cars were truly a viable thing. Because if you would have asked me, I would have said there's too many people that are too powerful that are going to prevent it to happen. And here we are. It's pretty amazing. I just did not think that was a hurdle we were going to get over, because, you know, the cabal of power would never let it happen. And here we are. So it is possible. And I will say that's been a massive game changer for me to be like, okay, we can get through this. What is it going to take? And I really hope, to Mike, your point, that the right person is at the reins doing it. Because if it's the wrong person, I don't know how that's going to.
And that's what I was getting at, Maddie. Love your explanation. But the fundamental difference is between AI will create efficiency. What blockchain is doing and real world asset people are doing right now is the real work. They are fundamentally looking at house deeds, contracts, the systems, and rethinking how does blockchain make this a digital asset so we're no longer handling pieces of paper and this just really archaic process, right? And those are actually the true heroes of this industry that are trying to solve it for a better, more efficient process. But again, I mean, I hosted that RWA space, the real estate, for multiple months. The conversation didn't change. It was always, when we get more lawyers, when we have more time.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Right?
You said it. AI can solve world hunger. AI can solve the energy crisis. AI can solve all of these things. It's us getting in the way, and so
yeah.
We'll have to see.
I think, but what I'm getting at though is the actual work of trying to get humans to change is actually happening more on the blockchain side than anything else.
I agree. It is much more of a frontier.
You're fundamentally re-engineering contracts on a digital ledger.
Yeah, no, I get that.
You know,
All
Alan,
right.
it's your turn. It's your turn, Alan.
Yeah,
We want
you
to know
go
what
ahead,
your
Alan.
future holds. What are you excited about? Where do you see real estate going? How does all this play into effect? What's going on with Optimal Agents?
so to I think kind of bridge those 2 points. There's good news and bad news, right? And to the point about, I am sure a lot of people in this community specifically are frustrated at the amount of stuff they have to overcome in order to do some of these things, which are conceptually very, very simple in many ways. Like, clearly, blockchain's a better way to do contracts than the way we do it in real estate.
Mhm.
But like you said, it's a long way to go there. Now, there's a level of like, dang, that sucks. But the reality is, for almost everybody listening, that just gives you a longer runway to figure out which part of this problem are you going to work on and what's in it for you and your family, right? What matters to you and your community? What specific expertise do you have? And really the longer the better, because like the longer it takes, the more you have a chance as at the individual opportunistic level to be in it and to be a player in those at all those things, and everyone's doing it at their own pace. So that's my my takeaway from the good news bad news of that scenario.
Yeah, man, I love that insight, and it's exactly that, right? And I think this again ladders back to the self-awareness part. Is as these systems change very quickly, I think it is imperative that everybody really has a true hard conversation with themselves as to what brings them joy, what they're passionate about, and also what they're good at. And they need to combine those 3 facets and go after it. And you're going to fail, and it's not going to be pretty. But if you have those things aligned, at least you're moving in the right direction. So I'm glad that you said that, because I totally agree.
No, I love
And
that.
And so, as far as the next 3 to 6 months, specifically taking the tech side out of it, anything that you want to expand upon, what you see in the real estate market? Are things go up, go down? Like what like, are you optimistic? Are you not optimistic? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, these are I think it's a good question, because it's the one that everyone wants to know, right? And it's probably the number one question that people want to get someone that spends a lot of their time looking at stuff in the real estate space. And there's a lot of theories out there. I mean, people have been saying the market's crashing next month for the last 3 months, or the last 3 years. I'm sorry. A lot of people thought the market was going to crash. A lot of people were speculating on the new administration was going to take a dramatic shift one way or a dramatic shift the other way based upon whichever way you voted, and the reality is, my opinions, I'm speculating, of course, because the world is incredibly volatile, and when you're talking about wars and new administrations, things can change quickly. But as far as we can see, homes are going to get more expensive slowly for a while. Our interest rates coming down eventually, no one knows when.
Yeah.
It's not a satisfying answer, but if you've been on the sidelines waiting for a crash, unless you're looking at a very specific local area that is having a regional downturn, okay, that's possible. But broadly speaking, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if you were thinking about buying or selling, might as well get to it, because it's probably not going to be better in the future than it is right now.
Yeah. It's the same people ask about crypto. 2 months ago, everyone tell you Bitcoin would be at $150,000 right now. I think it's below 90. I don't know where it is now, but I know it got into like the 80s. So it's just, I know it's a super speculative question, but I actually think, I don't know. We'll see. Inflation, all of these different things, it's all gonna eventually end in something, and I'm not sure.
I'll say this: you just talked about in the beginning of this podcast how real estate is a $300 trillion market cap, and we also spoke about what AI is doing. And I'll tell you this: we are part of one of the largest transfers of wealth that the planet has ever seen. The largest generation who has all of the wealth right now, most of the wealth, I should say, is retiring. They're aging out, right? And you know what they're tired of doing? They're tired of grinding. They want to sit on the beach and they want to play with their grandkids, and they're selling off these massive, massive assets, not just real estate, businesses, whatever it might be, right? But many of them have this stuff and they're looking to offload it. And what's really cool about the opportunity right now is if you combine what AI, what the tech can do, and you find a niche and you recognize the fact that a lot of this money is being transferred right now to our generation because we're the ones that are able to purchase it, the opportunity is ripe. Interest rates aside, who cares? I don't care if it's 10% interest rate. If I'm getting the best opportunity I'm going to get in my life right now for wealth to transfer to me, there'll be a better day when I can refinance. But it's the opportunity right now is truly unique, and it's a window that will eventually close and we may not see again for multiple generations. So I think that is something to consider.
Amazing point. And I think Alan had something to chime in there. Saw your face light up.
It's another, you know, when you mentioned that eventually as the pricing models get so finely tuned, it will be harder to find deals for investing. It will be harder to find deals, right? Right now you have the opportunity to develop, you know, local specific expertise to spot deals, to flip a house and find those things, right? You know, it's like, if anyone out here, probably nobody is old enough to remember this, but remember buying and selling a car before Kelley Blue Book versus after Kelley Blue Book, right?
Right.
It was like you could find deals and you have a big difference in what you could buy and sell for, versus after Blue Book, it was a much more constrained price window. And we're going to see that effect across everything. So, you know, fantastic opportunities all around us.
And by the way, I need to shout out to Abstract. We got people tipping Pengu. People are saying this is one of the best streams of podcasts they've seen ever. Like, we're just nailing it. I'm telling you, in the freaking zone right now. And I think that's a perfect segue into close this out, Alan. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask you one last question. Maddie and I will say our closing comments. We're going to call it a day.
Mikey actually never let him answer his question. He asked us a question.
Oh, shit. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention, I guess.
What's he, Alan, what are you excited about? What is Optimal Agents looking forward to moving forward?
So, you know, this, you know, brings the conversation full circle, right? Split that apart. Optimal, when you think about optimizing something, it's highly personal, right? Every agent is a person coming into the real estate space with a family situation, with a financial situation, with, you know, a certain way they want to do it, things they don't freaking want to do and things they actually would love to do, you know? And so to help people understand the control mechanisms to dial in this big opportunity of real estate into something that they actually want to do and is going to build them the life that they want to have and live. Because, you know, if you talk to people, there's a lot of great jokes in real estate. You know, people say like, "Oh, are you married?" And they say, "No, I'm divorced because I'm a realtor." You know, you know, it's like a running joke, you know, and it's like, you hear these things and it's but it's a business that like, it like knows no limits. People don't care that it's Sunday night if they need to get a contract written, you know? So like, it can be a real tough thing to put boundaries around and to build a life around. And so I think there's high stakes for every single agent out there. And we love just, you know, figuring out like, how can we help people build the business that they want to have, live the life that they want to live, whether you're a brand new agent or a seasoned agent, or you're trying to build an empire or be a real entrepreneur in the space, you know? And so we're, you know, sharing our thoughts in an industry that's changing like crazy every single day, and an industry where I think right now there's more opportunity than there's ever been, like by a lot. Helping people grab the chunk of it that they want to get and help people do what they want to do.
Beautiful answer, brother. Beautiful answer. And sorry about cutting you off. I was chatting and I wasn't fully paying attention. So Maddie, thank you for checking me. And so, yeah, this is it, brother. Final question. You have now gone through the Midlife Crisis podcast experience. I'm sure you have listened to podcasts. I don't know if this is your first podcast. Honest, open feedback on how you think the last, by the way, 2.5 hours went. Hit me.
Dude. So I've this is the first podcast I've guested on. I've done a few podcast episodes of my own, which I don't think I ever published, but they were just, really just trial runs. And it's interesting. I love the length of this. It's like, it feels like a Star Trek analogy, like a Vulcan mind meld. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I feel like our consciousness has merged in an interesting way, and it's it definitely is an experience. I can't remember anything that I was thinking I was going to say before we jumped on here. I said maybe 2 or 3 of the things I thought we might say, and like you said, everything just kind of flowed the way that it went. Hopefully it helps some people along the way.
Awesome, man. Thanks for the feedback. And I think it's the greatest feedback that we're going for, is really like, we want you to feel natural. We want you to feel like it's not this pre-canned, like we're talking to you or at you. And it's a collaborative conversation and effort. And it seems like that's the feeling you got. And that's literally what we're trying to go for, because you know what that exudes, which we talked about in the beginning, with the sales principles: authenticity and genuinity, right? And so you just naturally get that. And we have literally people commenting in the audience, that's the feeling they got. And you are part of that. So thank you for joining us on that journey today, man. I mean, my comments are, one, obviously we know each other from a long time. I learned more about you today, and thank you for being vulnerable at times and sharing that too. You've got multiple kids, a full family, and you just took a long time, and I know it's late for you as well. So I appreciate the time. Always have to say that. But 3, dude, we have to set up a couple meetings, because I have people that I want you to talk to on like the blockchain and really the AI side. But I think there's just a lot of synergies, and I want to make sure we continue to keep on talking, because I think, like we said, the next 6 to 12 months is going to get nutty. And I think there's a lot of people that I talk to that might just even be good people to talk to pick their brain about the tech side of things. And who knows, maybe another little business idea will spawn from it. But I'm super excited now that we've had this to like continue to keep in touch and see how we can help each other out, man. So thank you so much, man. It's always good seeing your beautiful face.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I know this is this show, this thing that you guys have done, and these people that do it with you. It's a baby that you guys have given birth to and poured a lot of love into. So I appreciate you giving me a chance to play with your little digital kiddo here.
Absolutely,
be a part of the family.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, Alan and I talk a lot. I mean, the bottom line is my start in real estate. I mean, again, I always knew it as an investment vehicle. I read Robert Kiyosaki's books, who was very clear that real estate was a way to become a millionaire. And for whatever reason, book after book about real estate and the power of sales, whatever it might be, just didn't really connect. And Alan's conversations and the way he looks at real estate as an investment vehicle, but also as a way of being able to play in all of the different realms that make me happy as an entrepreneur, is the reason that I wanted to move into it. And I'm just excited to see, because I've watched your real estate journey and see where you've come to, man. And the fact that you're at a point now where it's optimal agents, I feel like you are so equipped at this point to take it to the next level. You are definitely paddling, that is for sure. And I'm really excited, man. I'm excited for you. You've already caught some waves, man, but I think the big wave's coming, and it's really cool to see. And I appreciate you taking the time as always. Of course, we're going to chat more about this. I will say this whole topic, this conversation, even in 2.5 hours, this is one of those conversations that creates more questions than it answers.
Yeah.
And I recognize that. And so the other truth is, to Mikey's point, is we have to, what we need to do is we need to set a time and do this again. Maybe we're going to get some questions, some feedback from the audience, things like that. And you said there were things you thought you might say, and you don't know what you were going to say, what you might not. If those things come up, we'll have a secondary conversation and maybe be able to go through those and highlight some of those, because I think there's some valid questions, and we just didn't have 5 hours today. That's just really what it came down to. So with that said, are there any things you really like, just burning things you're like, you know what, I did want to say this today that we didn't get a chance to address? I want to make sure the floor is open for you if you wanted that.
I think we got through all the essentials. As far as anything that I had to say, and I just hope it was helpful to your people. If there's anybody out there that is looking, for some more information, they think that I could be helpful, whether they're, considering a career in real estate or thinking about investments, or they're hesitating on this or that. And, I'm approachable, so I'm here to help if I can be of help.
That means we nailed it, because that was his answer. And I would say just DM me at Mikey G NFT when you get a chance, but don't do that because my account's hacked, sons of bitches. So DM mid_life crisis, which is being streamed from now, if you have any questions, or you want to be linked up with Alan, or you just want to say that was badass. We'll cut some content together. Will go up on Midlife's YouTube. I will probably even use some of this AI content as well on our Web3 focused Twitter as well, because I think it's all great content, man. I don't really even care that it's real estate focused and not Web3. So I can't wait to cut this up, and it's going to be amazing. And with all that being said, Mikey G, Alan, and Maddie, aka Maddie Mintz, are out.